What's up everybody, and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at this 2023 Infiniti QX50 Sport all-wheel drive. This particular spec is finished in graphite shadow. MSRP is around $53,000. So let's get right into this luxury focused crossover. Underneath the hood of the 2023 Infiniti QX50, you're going to find a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged motor, pumping out 268 horsepower with 280 pound-feet of torque. It's paired to a CVT transmission, sending the power through an all-wheel drive system, and with a curb weight around 4,000 pounds running on a 16-gallon fuel tank, you're looking at 22 miles per gallon in the city with 28 out on the highway. Overall length is 184.7 inches with a wheelbase at 110.2. Width is 74.9 and height is 66 inches. And then now moving on to the styling with the 2023 QX50. This is a pretty sporty looking crossover. I love all these sharp lines and the sloping bodywork. We get a really cool set of LED headlights with LED daytime running lights, and it all cuts its way to a blacked out front grille. I love the massive mesh. You're also going to see parking sensors within it. Your Infiniti logo is also a safety sensor. It allows a ton of cooling to the 4-cylinder turbo. You're also going to see some gloss black trim on the farthest points with an LED fog light, some gloss black trim underneath that, and a really nice looking front splitter. Get a pretty cool piece right in the center as well with more mesh. I think the front end really comes together to give it a unique design. Everything fades its way towards this hood, which has huge bulges on the farthest sides, which really give it a unique look up front. I think it comes together fantastically. As we make our way to the side profile, the Sport features a set of 20-inch wheels with a multi-spoke design as well as a 2-tone color, and you can see some nice plastic trim around the front wheel arch with a little bit of body molding. You get a nice gloss black trim piece, and then a clean line running through the side profile right across the door handles. We get more sharp lines in the lower portion of these doors to really give it some nice character. Then you get a set of body colored door handles and body colored mirror caps. You get an integrated turn signal as well as a side view camera, and then all gloss black trim surrounding the windows. I really love, especially in back, you get a really sharp cut throughout this pillar, and then we get gloss black along the roof rails as well as a panoramic roof. Making our way to the side profile, this has really cool proportions. I love the sweet sloping lines and just how unique it looks from the side. I think it really comes together to be a sporty looking mid-size crossover. Then as we make our way in back, you can see all those sharp lines fading their way towards the rear end, and I like how the taillights are all integrated nicely. You can also see the integrated spoiler up on top of the glass, as well as more gloss black surrounding the window. Then you can see the gloss black trim piece right in the center with blacked out Infiniti logos. You can see the all-wheel drive logo on the left, and you get QX50S over on the far right side. Get some plastic trim as well as more gray trim in the lower bumper. Then you can see a cool set of exhaust tips. There's also all of your parking sensors and some really sharp lines all throughout the rear end. And then moving to the key fob, we get remote start, lock, unlock, as well as the panic button. And then keeping the car locked, all you have to do is grab the handle, it'll automatically unlock, and we can check out this interior. This particular spec has the Semi Aniline Monaco red interior. You're also going to see black accents all throughout it. Taking a look at the door panel, we get the smooth black leather up on top, kind of a carbon fiber look material with silver trim, your release handle, memory seating, and part of the Bose audio. We get all of your window controls, lock, unlock, and mirrors, and some nice leather along the padded armrest, grab handle, as well as storage. We get an illuminated Infiniti badge for your side sill, and then all the power controls on the left side of the seat. I really like the smooth black leather with all the stitching, and then you get perforated red leather all throughout the center. Really nice looking spec for sure. You can see the 2-tone along the seats as well as headrests. And then spinning around, we get a black leather steering wheel with 3 spokes and some nice silver trim. And then now inside, keeping my foot on the brake, we can go ahead and fire it up. All 3 of the screens are going to turn on. Moving to the center now, you can see the analog tack on the left with engine temperature, along with your speedometer and fuel to the right. And then in the center, we get a small LCD screen that you can configure using the controls on the right side of the screen. You can scroll left and right basically. You can see trip information. We also get all of your tire pressure as well. Compass and navigation will pop up. You have different audio and warnings. Then some information within the engine and all of your safety and cruise control settings. Taking a look at this steering wheel now, you can see controls on the left side. This will change your track. You also get volume control, a few more Bluetooth and audio controls, and then cruise control settings are over on the right side. We even get a set of steering wheel mounted paddle shifters if you do want to take a little bit of manual control. Turn signal stock over on the left side, and then on the right we get all the windshield wipers. To the left of the steering wheel, we have your headlight controls, interior dimming, as well as the fog lights. Then we have our button right here for our cruise control with the steering intervention, parking sensors, and liftgate. Then I really like the stitching design throughout the dashboard that lays its way to the doors. Really nice and premium feeling in that same carbon fiber look material, and then more of the black leather along the dash with some red going down towards the center. The upper screen is going to be your full navigation system, and then down below that we have all the controls. So this is your configurable screen. Hitting the home icon kind of gives you everything you want to see. You can adjust different driver's assistance settings. We have all of your connections, information, and phone, and then you can swipe over and see a few more things. Navigation goes across the top to adjust all that. Then we have a shortcut for climate. This is touchscreen, so it's really easy to adjust all of your fan speed, heated steering wheel, air conditioning, things like that. Then we have the audio shortcut as well. Now when you are in here, of course you can use those buttons, but you also get the physical controls for your fan speed. So if you're not even on this menu, you can easily adjust things, and those will then come up on the screen above. We have dual zone temperature, all of your zones, heated and ventilated seats for passenger and driver, and a few more controls on the far right side. We have a few more down below and a CD player in the center. Then we get wireless charging, a few different plugs and cup holders, then your gear selector right in the center with manual mode. We have your drive mode right here. You can toggle this. It'll go into all 4 different drive modes, and you can see how it'll adjust. And then right in the center, it'll tell you what mode you're in. You're also going to see the electronic parking brake and a brake hold. And I like on this far right side, you have a control panel for the center screen. So if I go ahead and hit any of these buttons, it'll go into a different menu to where you can adjust all sorts of different things within the car. And then just tapping the map button, it goes back. And if I tap the camera shortcut button, you can see a good view of our front view as well as the top down. And of course, if I go into reverse, the backup camera will be on the left with your top down on the right. And going back into park, then if I go ahead and hit any of these like the map button, it'll of course exit out. In the center, you can see more of the two-tone color. And then opening this up, we get a pretty decent amount of storage space in here for the center console. And then closing that, we have a pretty good sized glove box as you would expect. Now taking one last look at the interior, this is a really sporty looking interior. Of course, this is the Sport trim, so you'd expect kind of a neat interior, but well laid out for sure. Up on top, we get a black headliner. Just tapping this button once, it's gonna automatically open up the sunshade, and then if I clicked it a little bit harder, the glass portion is gonna open along with it. You can see all of your dome-like controls up on top, and of course we get a sunglass holder, then you get your mirror with garage door openers. And then moving on to the rear seat space, if I grab the door handle and open it up, door panels finished off just like we saw up front with all the same materials. You get the aluminum illuminated Infiniti logo, and then the same interior back here with the two-tone color. Very cool looking. You're gonna see storage nets on the backs of both front seats, along with climate control vents, plugs, and just a little bit of storage. And then in the center, if I grab the seat and pull it down, we get some storage as well as your 2 cup holders. You can also see we have a recline lever on this far left side. And if I go ahead and pull that, the seat will come down, lock nearly flat, and give you a ton more storage space into the cargo area. All right, so sitting now in the back seat of this QX50, it's a pretty roomy crossover. I'm 5'11" sitting back here. If I go ahead and recline this seat, it doesn't really recline all too much. However, it's at a pretty good angle, so honestly, you could be pretty comfortable here. This back window, it's kind of got a unique cut to it, as you can see, but it does give you a ton of visibility, and this pillar feels pretty thin to where you do have a lot of glass. With the panoramic roof, that is a nice touch just to make this feel nice and open. Now the driver's seat is set a little bit higher than what I would normally have it at. However, there is plenty of legroom and knee room with this set at my height. So honestly, a pretty nice back seat space. You got a decent amount of amenities. Of course, you got your dome lights up top, as well as a grab handle. And then moving on to the cargo area, if I hold down the button on the key fob, we're gonna automatically open up this lift gate. Super convenient to do. And we have a pretty roomy cargo area. It's nice and squared off with a pretty flat floor, and you can get a better idea of the recline of those seats. But from here, we can grab this and lift it up. We get some nice hidden storage space, and then a little bit of the Bose audio system, as well as maybe some more hidden storage space underneath the floor. You can also see how we have a grab handle on each side. If we pull this, those seats are gonna fold downwards to give you better access. So that's a really convenient touch. And of course, we even have room for a privacy cover if you wanna have one, so you can get a good understanding of the differences in space between seat up and seat down, but really practical and roomy car. We have the button up top as well as a lock button and grab handle. We can automatically close it up. All right guys, so we are setting off now in this Infiniti QX. So first and foremost, some normal things. This really is just a nice normal crossover to drive in. You have a pretty good seating position to where you're not too crazy high up, but you're definitely not in a small sedan. Really big view out of the windshield, and it's kind of unique how you can see the huge bulge in the center of the hood as well as each of these fenders. So it kind of gives you a little bit more unique design. Mirrors all do a good job letting you know what's going on behind you, and visibility is actually pretty decent over your left and right shoulder. I'd say over your right shoulder, that pillar way in the back, having that cut in the glass hinders it just a tad, but quite honestly, when you poke your mirrors out a little bit and with a 360 camera, it's pretty easy and normal to see around. As far as the comfort and the luxury qualities, because this is the Infiniti, so of course it needs to be on the luxurious side, it's honestly a pretty smooth and comfortable vehicle to be in. It doesn't feel crazy noisy or bumpy or anything like that. Even hitting all the little bumps that are in the road, it takes them well and it just feels really smooth. The drive modes do a little bit when you toggle them. If we go into sport mode and then toggle this down into the manual mode, it gives you a cool manual shift function. And for being a CVT, quite honestly, I think Nissan does the best CVTs. It doesn't feel like one because there's technically gears in how they've tuned the way the transmission works. So it's kind of unique how they've done that. If I go back into drive, it's actually pretty peppy. I think the 2-liter 4-cylinder is peppy enough to where you can get up and go. In sport mode, definitely much more aggressive. We go down to standard mode, tones down throttle response basically. However, you can still give it some gas and you'll climb up to some speed pretty nicely. As far as the fit and finish, I really like the materials you're gonna see. The Semi Aniline leather feels really nice. It looks super cool. And all the material all across the dashboard, the tops, the doors and everything, it really does feel like a pretty premium car. And for the price point, that low $50,000, it's not crazy as far as the price. You know, there's a lot of other crossovers that are probably a little bit more expensive than this from the Europeans. So it feels like Infiniti did a pretty good job just giving you a pretty normal to drive crossover. There's of course nothing performance focused about it, so when you're driving in it, you know, there's nothing, it's not fast or anything like that, but it's just a nice relaxed crossover with all the tech you're gonna want, and it just feels like a pretty nice family crossover to cruise in. So then flipping around to my honest thoughts, if I give it some gas, I will say the CVT, while I'm not a fan, I would rather have a normal transmission in here. It's really cool the way they've tuned it to have gear settings for how the transmission works. So it does feel a lot more normal, pretty smooth transmission, pretty smooth power delivery, I would say. And overall, it's a pretty normal crossover to drive. I wouldn't say there's really much that's like above and beyond crazy special. You know, it's not a super high-end expensive car, so you wouldn't expect that. However, if you're looking for basically a relatively affordable, luxury-focused crossover that can just feel like your typical crossover, however, it's a little bit nicer than just normal, you know, Infiniti is something to look at. It feels really smooth, really comfortable. The seats are nice to be in. They go all the way up your leg to really give you a comfortable seating position. I mean, good electronic supports. You can adjust everything to really make them just super comfortable, of course, with ventilated seats and things like that. The technology, you've heard the lane keeping go quite a bit. I will say it's a little intrusive. You know, you barely get to that line and it's beeping at you. So I certainly like to turn that off for this car. I feel like there's just a little bit too much like that. The interior technology is also pretty simple, and I'm really liking the dual screen, especially since you can have your navigation screen going and just do its thing. You don't have to worry about, you know, blocking that screen to adjust your climate or radio controls or something. So I think that's a really cool touch, especially having these shortcuts down below. So I can easily see the menu, you know, adjust your navigation, go into audio, you know, change all that, and yet the nav is still running at the same time. And then with the technology and everything like that, you know, the 360 cameras work really well. One thing I wish it had is a digital speedometer in the center. I have become so used to using a digital readout for the speedometer. Having just an analog one takes a little bit getting used to. I feel like I'm spoiled with almost every other car I've ever driven having a digital one. So I would like to see that. The center screen, there's not all too much information, really just your basics. So they maybe could have utilized a little bit more tech in there. But again, that's pretty nitpicky. I don't really have any crazy complaints with the car. It just feels like a nice normal car, but with that little extra touch of luxury and being under. See, yeah, that is the one thing. The lane keeping is a little too intrusive. I need to find the button and turn that off. But other than that, the tech and everything works pretty well. Interior, the use of materials, the way it looks, it feels like a $50,000 car, and it's nice to see that these aren't going to break the bank. That you're able to get into something a little bit nicer than your typical brand, however you're getting some good luxuries. And since this is Nissan underneath, you can just bring it to the dealer if there's anything going on with it or servicing, and it's just super normal to own and maintain. That is like the 7th time. So that's the only thing, the safety settings, which is good that it works really well like that. However, maybe with me, I just need to turn that part off. But anyways, I think that is then it for this 2023 Infiniti QX50. The Sport model is pretty cool. It looks really nice, of course, with the way the styling is. That's peppy enough. I guess the one thing you may be missing with the Infiniti brand is the performance drivetrain. The Europeans are going to have the ones that are much more performance focused, more power, more responsive transmissions. This is a very normal utilitarian drivetrain. So I think if you're looking for a luxury car, but you don't want to pay extra to get into a European car, which will have that extra performance, but you don't want just a basic normal brand, this is kind of the sweet spot. Infiniti competes with Lexus and Acura, which are kind of that same level of, they're not the performance luxury cars, but they're a step up from the normal cars. And I think Infiniti does have quite a lot to offer. So both of these on your list, check it out if you're looking for a pretty decent, smaller size crossover. It's kind of like the perfect size. Really haven't had any complaints with it. Seems like not a bad option at all. So anyways, that is it then for today's video. Checking out the 2023 QX50. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for plenty more content. And I'll see you all in the next video.